Welcome to the Dan Casper Show podcast, your chance to catch the full show anytime, anywhere. If you missed it live on the radio, no worries. We've got you covered with all the sports talk, opinions, interviews, and conversations from the show. From the Packers to the Brewers to the biggest stories in sports and around Wisconsin, it's all right here. This is the Dan Casper Show podcast. All right, here we go. Second hour, kick it off for right now. Second quarter tips off for right now on this Thursday morning. Thanks for hanging out with us last night, because I got sidetracked reading Surveyor's text here, which I'll get to in a second. But thanks for hanging out with us here this morning, whether it's on the radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM, or if you're streaming it up online at our website, WAYYradio.com, Sports Talk 1051.com. How dare you, Surveyor? Have you seen the movie, by the way, Draft Day?
Yes.
Your thoughts?
I like it.
Thank you. Movie. How dare you, Surveyor? You're shunned. One of the worst sports movies of all time.
What?
No. You're not a true fan, Surveyor. That's an inside joke between me and him. But you, sir, how dare you? Is it realistic? Heck no.
No.
But what movie is realistic these days? So, come on. How dare you? Get some class, Surveyor. Get some class. Speaking of Surveyor, oh man, he's got another one? Okay. Hired today. Anything's on the table. Are you going to go to the alumni board and ask for more NIL money? Are you firing coaches? Are you interviewing guys right now? Are you hiring general managers for each sport? Are you bringing baseball back? What are you doing after the press conference telling the world that DK is the athletic director of Wisconsin? Well, I mean, the whole baseball one, if you're going to add it, you got to take away something. So, I mean, it's not that simple. I mean, or you got to add another one. You know, it's the Title IX thing. So there's a little bit more to it than just say, bring this back sort of thing. I don't know. I think a lot of people are just going to assume whoever is coming in as athletic director, Luke Fickell, is going to be fired right away. Luke Fickell is going to begin the year coaching football for Wisconsin, regardless of who comes in.
And he should, right? I mean, it's too late.
Yeah, you're not going to be bringing in somebody that's on the street right now and doing that. So I would say that the seat is definitely hotter. There's no question about it. So, but anybody hoping that that's going to be the case now, it's not going to happen before kickoff. So, I would like to say, yeah, get more NIL money, but again, I think that's more. It's not like they have this, from my understanding, this bank account, if you will, where you can just ask for a bigger loan and such. What are you going to do to try to get more money? You know what I mean? Like they got to hit the streets and find some donors and find some sponsors and such. But that's a tough question right now at this point. I think when you look at different programs, again, the hockey ones you're not touching. Mm-mm. You're good with that. There's definitely issues with football. But the thing is, too, is like, how much do you want to invest in football this year if this is going to be the final year of Luke Fickell? You know what I mean? You might want to say, all right, let's see how this year plays out. Prove to me that you can turn this thing around, and if you can, we're going to start from scratch, and I'm going to bring in my guy. Basketball, to me, is the tricky one because I think Greg Gard's a really good coach, but got to get over that hump of winning games in the postseason. It just has to. And right now, I think there's progress being made for the women's basketball team. I mean, they're keeping in-state recruits and such, so I want to see that play out. And I don't know if it's happened yet, but I know there's been a couple big recruits that are supposed to be visiting Wisconsin men's basketball here in the coming days. So whatever you could do to try to pull out those stops would be instrumental. I don't know. That's a tough question.
I think the problem with the basketball team is Greg Gard's a coach who doesn't play freshmen. He doesn't like to play freshmen. So for all these like studded in-state freshmen, if they can go somewhere else and start, they're going to go somewhere else and start. And so maybe Greg Gard needs to change a little bit. I don't know. I mean, what he's doing is working, just not in the tournament. So I'm wondering what he's going to do this year. We got a couple good recruits coming in that are highly touted out of high school. Are they going to play? I mean, Zach Kinzinger was supposed to be really good, and he didn't play very much last year. Mm-hmm. So,
and probably a couple of years ago, like Daniel Freitag, who didn't play, and he leaves in that. And I know guard. I think one thing he has done a decent job is going international and trying to find players that way. But I don't know, maybe it is. If you get a guy like a Daniel Freitag, who I think was a recruit that we kept hearing about, and it was a surprise that he left after 1 year. But maybe that is something it's such a. I'm glad I don't coach college sports right now, to be honest with you, just because there's so much uncertainty surrounding everything.
Well, and it's hard, right? Because Freitag went to Buffalo and he averaged 17 points. Mm-hmm. And now he's back in the portal looking at a chance at another high major program. Mm-hmm. But would he have done that as a freshman? I mean, nobody really knows. So,
yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. I'd like to say, yeah, spend more here, spend more there to get that, but I don't know how much money they actually have for NIL, because a lot of it is just going to be based off donors. And it's easy for us to say, well, hit up Joe Thomas, hit up all these guys. Do they want to? That's the other thing. Do they want to? We don't know. They don't have a Mark Cuban like Indiana has, right? I mean, we can name off people, but do they want to? It's easy for us to say, go do this, go do that, go do that, have them write a check. We don't know if they want to, so I don't know. I think the other part is, too, the tricky part is they're also looking for a chancellor. I mean, chancellor and AD are two big, very important roles for a university, and they need to be on the same page, right? They need to be, working like same visions, same ideas, same goals when it comes to the athletic department. So I think that's the other wild card in this thing, that they're still trying to find that role at the same time. But I'm going to have to put Surveyor in the penalty box, though, for his draft day take. Yeah. I can't believe that, sir. No. Come on. All right. Tell you what. Let's take a quick break. Enough's enough with Surveyor for this morning. Let's get to, speaking of draft day, are the top 30 visits telling us a little bit about maybe Green Bay's plans for edge rusher? Lucas Van Ness, they're going to have to decide on that fifth-year option here fairly soon. Are they going to pick it up, or are they going to decline it? And essentially, Lucas Van Ness is entering his final year in Green Bay. What would you do? Because they got to decide shortly after the draft. We'll take a quick break and take a look at edge rushers. How important do you think this position is for the Green Bay Packers? We'll take a quick break and be right back after these quick words. Road trip season is right around the corner. Are you and your vehicle ready to go the distance? Before you hit the highway, make sure that your vehicle is in top shape with the help from AJM Automotive. Oil changes, tires, brakes, engine work. Their experienced team will make sure that you're ready for wherever the road takes you. And don't forget, see, the grass is turning a lot greener with all the rain and growing a little bit taller too. So if you got to get those lawnmowers tuned up and ready to do some damage, they can help out with small engine work too. I've taken my lawnmower there and snowblower too. So now with 2 convenient locations in Eau Claire, getting your vehicle serviced has never been easier. Plan a trip and AJM Automotive will handle the rest. Just visit ajmautomotiveservices.com to schedule your appointment. I'm excited because they're putting on my new tonneau cover for my truck today, so I won't have any leakage back there with all the Little League baseball stuff getting soaked from my other tonneau cover. So excited that they're going to be doing that today. So looking forward to that. It's the little things like that, man. You'll understand when you get older, intern. You'll understand. So let's talk some NFL draft. We are 1 week away from the first round, but the Packers wrapping up some of their top 30 visits. And when you take a look at this group, it's all over the place. You've got some edge rushers, you've got some defensive backs, you've got some linemen, you've got running backs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we've talked about receivers this week. We've talked about offensive linemen, and obviously we've talked a lot about defensive linemen and corners. But what about edge rusher? We got one of the best. The Packers have one of the best edge rushers in the entire league with Micah Parsons. They moved on from Rashawn Gary. Kingsley Enagbare left via free agency. They still have Lucas Van Ness, and will have second-year guys Barron Sorrell and Colin Oliver. But with the Packers having to decide shortly after the draft whether they are going to keep Lucas Van Ness on a fifth-year option, or, they're going to have to decide if they don't, he's going to be a free agent after this year. If they do, he's going to be about $14 million cap hit for his fifth-year option. So maybe Green Bay is going to go and see what they get through the draft before making that decision. How much confidence do they have in Barron Sorrell and Colin Oliver heading into their second years in that? Essentially is, how big of a priority is it for the Packers to get an edge rusher in this draft? Well, let's take a look at some of their top 30 visits. Now, when I say edge rushers in this thing, I am going to include some defensive ends, defensive tackles in this, not the nose tackles, but a couple, that are going to be listed as defensive linemen, but probably, at that 3-4 end and that sort of thing. So, but let's start off with, and I might throw a couple of linebackers into this equation here too. So let's start off, let's go with, let's go with the Central Michigan edge rusher, Michael Heldman, first. So, RAS score, again, Goody, Packers, they like their RAS scores. Not every player's had a really high one, and Goody kind of downplays it, but you can kind of look at different examples and such and get a good idea that, yeah, they like it. He's from Central Michigan, high energy, type of player, probably going to be a day 3 pick for the Packers. So you're looking between rounds 4 and 7. 6'4", 268, 270, depending on which one you're looking at. Another edge rusher that they brought in on a top 30 visit is UCF's edge rusher, Kelly, 6'5", 256. Kind of looking a little bit about him. He is a transfer from Miami. And such, probably a day 3 pick. He's really young still, only 21 years old. Another one that they brought in, Romello Height from Texas Tech. A little bit smaller. He's about 6'3", 240 pounds. Got about a round 3 grade on him. Another one is Caleb Proctor from Southeastern Louisiana. His projections around round 5. And then I'm going to throw a linebacker in this one because I think he's kind of an interesting one. It's Louisiana linebacker Jaden Duger. Now, he had kind of a surprise. He's really rising, apparently, according to a lot of NFL draft peeps out there throughout this draft process. He had a great performance at the East-West Shrine game and such. So I'm throwing him on here. I know he's a linebacker and such, but just kind of with the pass rush, linebacker, edge rusher, defensive lineman sort of thing. He was on a visit with Green Bay. Taking a look at, for defensive linemen, you got from Washington, Antonio Thompson. He is 6'1", 306. So, again, he's probably going to be like a 3-4 end in that base. A couple other players to look up on this list. I'll be honest, they brought in a lot more corners than I originally thought they did. But another one, you got a Georgia Tech defensive lineman, Jordan Vandenberg. He is a Penn State transfer as well. So I'm ignoring the nose tackles because we went through a lot of those as well. But by the way, Jaden Duger, 6'4", 242 pounds, 4 sacks, 13 tackles for losses in 2025. So you got, I already mentioned Caleb Proctor and such. So anyways, that's kind of the list that they're at right now for a lot of their, and I guess Louisville linebacker TJ Quinn is on that list too that they brought in. But given the different types of potential pass rushers that they brought in, whether it's a linebacker, whether it's a 3-4 end, or whether it is like the quote-unquote edge rusher, outside linebacker, whatever the heck you want to call them, do you think it's a big need, a big priority for Green Bay to go into this draft and get themselves another edge rusher? Or do you think just let's see how the board falls? Let's see how the board falls, and then if there's one there and it's the best value, go ahead and grab it.
I think it's kind of let's see how the board falls. Again, with so many needs this year, a wide receiver, they could use another tight end, they could use a rusher, they could use offensive line. I think it's kind of best available in the second round. Like you said, if they had a first-round pick, I think you could kind of pinpoint what positions most needed. Mm-hmm. But if somebody like a Cassius Howell from Texas A&M slips to you from out of the first round, maybe you take him who's an edge. If Chris Johnson, the corner out of San Diego State, slips, maybe you take him. If an offensive lineman, if it's kind of see how the board falls with all the needs you have.
The difficult thing in this is we're assuming Micah Parsons is not going to begin the season. Mm-hmm. So you're potentially looking at right now an edge rushing group that would be Barron Sorrell, Lucas Van Ness, Colin Oliver, Bretton Cox Jr., those are athletic guys, but a lot of unproven guys yet that you don't know what you have with them. And are you ready? Are you willing to begin your season, perhaps the first 3 games of the season, with those guys being your main pass rushers? And if Green Bay says no, or they're not, then I think that probably maybe indicates that they want to try to come and find another edge rusher, another pass rusher to this thing. Whether that's a 3-4 like a Cullen Jenkins. If we go back to the Super Bowl 45 team, Cullen Jenkins was a 3-4 defensive end, but was kind of their rusher on that 3-4 defensive end. So do they feel comfortable with that group that they currently have minus Micah Parsons? If that answer is no, then I think that priority has to move up in terms of trying to find. Then you figure out, well, man, do we have too many guys then at this point? Don't worry about that until you actually get to that point. Now, it may come at the cost of, well, we didn't get that corner right away, or we didn't get that interior defensive tackle or nose tackle right away. I honestly feel like Green Bay is going to approach this, and they say this every year, which is not fully factual. Well, we just draft best available. Every team says that. You don't do that for sure in the first round. Because if you have a quarterback and the best available is a quarterback, you're not drafting a quarterback.
Unless you're the Packers.
Unless you're the Packers and you got an aging quarterback. But like if Green Bay was drafting and the best available right now is a quarterback, they're not drafting a quarterback. If they did a second round, even though they did technically in 2008 with Brian Brown, which good old Ted. But anyways, there's a little tongue in cheek in that. But I really feel like if there was a year that Green Bay is just going to say, okay, best available compared to biggest need or our biggest needs, let's combine the two and such. So if they get to that board, they need a corner, they need a defense tackle, they need an edge rusher, they need an offensive lineman, they need a wide receiver. You throw those 5 out there and you see that, it's like, all right, who's the best one? We'll pick from that group. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
sort of thing?
I think these visits give you a little bit of insight on what they're thinking because, like you said, they have a lot of corners on here.
Corners, defensive back, safety type
and a lot of these guys aren't day 2 picks. Mm-hmm. A lot of these guys set up for day 3 picks. So maybe they're looking at edge rushers in round 2 or round 3, mm-hmm. offensive line in round 2 or round 3, because all these cornerbacks will be there 5th, 6th, and 7th round. Mm-hmm. And so they're bringing them in to talk to them to see what they're thinking for later. But I think this could likely mean that you could see a defensive tackle going around 2 to him, an edge rusher going around 2 to him. So I think these could tell us a little bit what they're thinking.
I think the if there was one thing that really stood out to me in these top 30 visits from Green Bay thus far is all the defensive backs they're bringing. On the surface, it makes sense, corners, right? But it's the other ones, the safeties or the DBs like Jacob Thomas from James Madison. Possible day 3 pick, but you read a little bit about him. Played in the box, in the slot, free safety, 700 career special team snaps. I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense when you look at Green Bay. But, when you think about safety, you're probably not thinking about that a big need for Green Bay. You've got Xavier McKinney, you've got Evan Williams, you've got Javon Bullard. But Javon Bullard plays more of the slot, plays more of that nickel coverage. And I think one thing that has hurt Green Bay, not so much last year because they were healthy, but the year before, is, okay, if there's an injury to the safety, they had to move guys around, and it took away, like Javon Bullard then would have to go play safety, and then you're lacking in the nickel. They don't have, Zane Anderson anymore, who was a safety special teams guy. So is this kind of the thinking with this? And you kind of go down and, yes, you got the corners of like a Charles Demings from Stephen F. Austin. You've got, let me just kind of go down, Malcolm DeWalt IV from Akron. A lot of smaller schools, which, they're trying to find those diamond in the rough. So Will Lee from Texas A&M, Karen Prunty from Wake Forest. And then you've got Perkins McAllister from ULM. This is the one where, he's 5'11", 200, but the RAS doesn't necessarily fit with Green Bay. But he's a long-arm defensive back who has played corner and safety, including the perimeter. Then you look at A.J. Halsey from LSU, likely day 2 pick, played deep safety in the box at linebacker and in the slot. Are we finding a theme here? These defensive backs that have played kind of all over the place. And Jonathan Gannon, if you look at what he did in Arizona for his defenses, he likes 3 safeties. He likes to play 3 safeties with that shell. Then you got Gaston from Middle Tennessee, played in slot, deep at safety, and in the box. So maybe we shouldn't be surprised if Green Bay goes in here and tries to find another safety, or let's not call it safety. Let's call it defensive back, because they have the experience at corner and playing safety. It makes a lot of sense that if Gannon wants to bring that style of defense where he has 3 safeties on that field, maybe they look for another versatile guy to fill that role. Kind of like what Javon Bullard is. He's a very versatile defense. I would call Javon Bullard a defensive back. I wouldn't pigeonhole him as a safety or a slot corner. I'd just call him a defensive back.
Yeah, like you said, the Packers love versatility, whether it's offensive line or defensive backs. And we saw Evan Williams get injured last year, and our defensive backs room got all messed up. Mm-hmm. So the ability to play different positions is big for the Packers. And in looking at these guys, I mean, they can be coached anywhere. And you're more likely to hit on a draft pick that's got this much versatility, because obviously he can play anywhere, but the Packers need positions everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so I'm looking at LSU safety Halsey. I mean, Packers will play him at deep safety. Next, he'll move into the linebacker's box, because that's what they do with Xavier McKinney. That's what they do with Evan Williams. And so, yeah, versatility, big theme.
Let me bring up Xavier McKinney here, too. I want to see his contract status here. Not saying, we know how Green Bay is with contracts and that. So Xavier McKinney is under contract 2027. This is kind of, okay. So next year, he's got a cap hit, $25 million. This year's cap hit is 9.8. It's actually down from last year. Last year, he was 17 points, if we round 17.6. So Xavier McKinney's cap hit goes down to 9.8. If Green Bay were to release him, they would save nearly $14 million in cap space after this year. It's still a dead cap of nearly $15 million. So I don't know. I don't think he plays on that cap hit for 2027. I think there's got to be a little bit maybe of an extension to lower that, because he is just 27 this year. So he's not, 30 or anything like that. But so I was just kind of curious, too, like if he's potentially going to be done with his contract, does this make more sense to draft a safety a little bit early on? But no, I think the part of it, too, is with the defensive backs here, with a lot of those guys, I think you look at special teams with that role. We know they need big-time improvements on special teams. Well, if you could get an athlete, you read a lot of those scouting reports with those defensive backs. What's one word that pops up too? Athlete, right? Athletic. All right. Let's get these guys in on special teams, because if they could play corner, they could play safety, they could do all that, they could play special teams. They could be gunners. They could be doing that sort of thing. So I guess, I wouldn't be surprised if it's, and I think this is what's going to catch people off guard. When they make a pick and they say safety so-and-so, whether it's like a round 4 or round 3. Be like, we don't need a safety. Oh,
yeah.
They're probably more of a defensive back at that point.
Well, and if you draft somebody for special teams, then St. Juice can focus on corner. Because he played some of the most snaps at special teams for the Chargers in the NFL last year.
Yeah.
So maybe he just focuses on corner then. And, there's so many different moving parts to a roster that a day 3 pick can be not wasted, but used on a player that's so versatile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, you look at the backup safeties right now in the depth chart. It's Jalen Simpson. It's Oladapo, which I still want to see what we have with Oladapo. And then there's, no backup to Javon Bullard, but I would think that's got to be like a Keyshawn Nixon or something like that, I would imagine. But, I think it makes sense to find a versatile defensive back that can get you, play in the box, play deep, play a little slot. You can move him around, but you still need a typical corner too. I don't think you could come away with this draft without drafting specifically maybe a perimeter corner, because you've got your nickel guys, you've got your slot guy. We need a perimeter corner. That's especially when you look at next year too. That to me is still a top priority along with a nose tackle in this. Honestly, I keep going back and forth, but I think if Green Bay stands where they're at, you're targeting a corner first.
I think for me it's corner, because I'm scared again this year. We're going to draft a 7th round corner and hope he works out, just like Valentine. Remember Valentine was starting late last year, and he's a 7th round pick. And I think they need. Keyshawn Nixon's a good number 2 corner. He's not a number 1 corner, but he's your number 1 corner. Mm-hmm. So now you have to pair him with somebody who can be a good number 2 corner as well. Mm-hmm. And that's nobody we have on the roster right now.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll have plenty more to get to, though, coming up after these quick words. Don't forget, starting tomorrow and going through the weekends, our good friends at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire, Smoked Meat Fest. One of the best smells in the area when it's this time of year is when you go to Hy-Vee and they got that big old smoker out there, and it's got some ribs on there. So you could join Hy-Vee in Eau Claire starting tomorrow through the 19th for their Smoked Meat Fest. So if you got worried about maybe what to do for dinner or got nothing planned, and well, here you go. Let them take care of it for you. It's one of my wife's favorite things at Hy-Vee is their smoked ribs. So also this weekend coming up at our good friends from Hy-Vee. If you got the kiddos, if you're a big Mario fan, on Sunday, April 19th, 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., it's their Super Galaxy Breakfast. Kids 4 and under eat free. 5 to 12 is just $6.99. Adults $12.99. Enjoy themed food activities and an 8-bit meet and greets. Gamers, you probably know what 8-bit they're referencing to. So that's coming up this Sunday, April 19th, 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. So we've got look at this, all the way in Holcomb. I agree, they need corner, but getting more help on the defensive line can also help solve corner issues. That's Phil in Holcomb. And Rick, a little bit earlier, said they need to find quality starters, a corner room and a D-line room. Needs some new blood. Defense faded down the stretch and gave up 300-plus yards rushing to the Ravens. Defense needs some dogs. So... But I think, can we all agree that I think it's just corners and defensive line are the 2 biggest needs on this thing? Mm-hmm. Whether that's what they get first or whether that's what they get second, I think we all agree it's corner and defensive line is the biggest needs. Don't overlook offensive line, though, too, because of the depth. I think they're one injury away from offensive line where I'm really nervous. because you look at that depth and you look at the depth chart, it's like, oh gosh, I don't know how that's going to play out. And I still even have questions about their starters too. I'm not sold on Aaron Banks. This is going to be our first shot. I know Jordan Morgan played well at left tackle during preseason and such, but this is a regular season now. I don't want it to where Jordan Love's going to be running for his life. I don't want it to where they're going to struggle to open up running lanes for Josh Jacobs and he gets banged up and such. So don't overlook the need of offensive line depth in this thing too, because odds are you're probably going to have a backup start some games. Once in a while it happens, and the continuity and the health of the offensive line. We've seen it with Green Bay teams. A lot of the really good teams, when they advance, it's because they've got that continuity and that health of that offensive line. I don't overlook that.
Well, especially with how we run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those offensive linemen are always on the ground because Josh Jacobs running straight. So, yeah, that needs to be added.
Mm-hmm. And, kind of going back to that top 30 list here, too, we talked about the defensive backs as such. But you look at another thing that is maybe, I wouldn't say surprising, but kind of intriguing, the amount of running backs that they are bringing in, too. Obviously, Arkansas's Mike Washington Jr. is on there. He's a bigger running back. You're talking 6'1", 233. And then you kind of go down the list. They got Kalen Black, who's 5'9", 211. So, I mean, a little bit shorter in size, but still pretty well built in that. And then they brought in Damian Bankston from New Mexico, 5'10", 196. And did they bring in one more? I thought they brought in another one. Maybe that was it. Let me just double check. Yeah, it looks like, but I mean, they brought in 3 running backs so far. They do have Josh Jacobs. They signed Chris Brooks. If they knew anything about Marshawn Lloyd, maybe running back isn't the thing here. But we don't know a thing about Marshawn Lloyd other than the fact the guy can't stay healthy with his hamstrings. So it's not that big of a surprise to me that they're maybe looking at bringing in another running back. And when you look at Josh Jacobs, I think a lot of people just assume that Josh Jacobs, this might be his final year in Green Bay. Maybe it is, because when you look at his contract, his cap hit for next year is $16.6 million, and his dead cap is only $3 million. So you'd be opening up $13 million if you were to release Josh Jacobs. He is 28 this year, and he'll be 29 next year. So that's why you hear a lot of people saying, is this going to be the final year for Josh Jacobs in Green Bay?
I also think the tail off of production last year, some people got a little hyper on it. Mm-hmm. Our offensive line was bad.
I was going to say, I think a lot of that is offensive line.
And he was injured. Mm-hmm. So I think he's going to have a bounce-back year for sure. Obviously, you're getting into the age range where for a running back, it's getting old. Mm-hmm. And when did we cut Aaron Jones? How old was he?
He was around that age.
Yeah. So, and the Packers they'll save money. So 13 a year, it may be. The problem is, I feel like there are better positions of need than running back.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and I think I think the kid from Arkansas, they're talking about a day 2 pick. That might be a little too early. But at the same time, they did draft A.J. Dillon in the second round when they had Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams on their roster. And that wasn't that was also the draft of Jordan Love, too. So everybody was like, what are you doing with this draft? So I guess never say never at that point. But I would agree that they've got bigger needs than a running back for a day 2 pick. But what if it's a running back that is kind of an Aaron Jones scat back type where he can be really effective in the passing game, kind of a change of pace? And Josh Jacobs has been really good in the passing game, too. I think that's kind of been an underrated aspect of that. But it's weird because running backs' shelf lives are so short. Do you want to draft one where he may not be a full-time player, but you kind of put a little bit of wear and tear on him? Or do you want that next running back to come in and be fresh and all? But Josh Jacobs has been good, but it's only been for a couple of years because obviously he had some years with the Raiders and such too. So,
well, and the hard part is you drafted Lloyd to replace Jacobs in the second round. I mean, Lloyd was supposed to be the guy, one of the best running backs in the draft a couple years ago, and he hasn't even played a single snap. So
maybe just a couple snaps, I think.
Oh, maybe a couple. It's and maybe they still believe in him. I know I don't, but again, I don't think a running back in day 2 makes a ton of sense unless they just fall into your lap.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Marshawn Lloyd. I'm trying to bring up. So he's got a career 6 carries for 15 yards, 1 catch for 3 yards, and if my memory serves me correct, I think it was that catch that he pulled a hamstring on.
Yes,
1 catch for 3 yards. So, I mean, there's stuff to like. It's just we can't. It's kind of like the Garrett Mitchell conversation that we had. Can he stay healthy? Can you bring up his draft profile combine right there? What they had to say about him a couple of years ago. Scroll down. Jerick McKinnon. Okay. Yeah. But based on his play, he feels more like a complimentary option with big play potential. Okay. So, I don't know. The jury's still out for him. Between him, he's got to have a great camp. I still think he makes the team, but he's got to stay healthy in camp. That's his main thing. He's got to stay healthy, and he's got to show us something this year. Him or Savion Williams, those are 2 unknowns for me. And I know it's not maybe fair for Savion because he's just entering his second year, but I think he's kind of a receiver too that we're just kind of overlooking. But he's a 3rd-round pick, and we need production from him this year.
I think the hard part is just last year the production wasn't there. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's getting more snaps than Matthew Golden, really wasn't doing anything with it, and including fumbling in big moments early in the year. And so I think that's kind of like he's got to prove it again this year before we really believe it.
Yeah. C-Bomb, I'm assuming you are AKA Chadwick on our YouTube. I'm assuming you're answering surveyors' questions over there, but you said first thing I am doing, first, I don't take the job without 0 NIL funds. I go pay whatever it takes to bring in Jim Leonard for defensive coordinator. Well, he just took a defensive coordinator job with Buffalo, C-Bomb. He ain't going to do that with the promise to make him that he becomes the next head coach. Then I tell Fickle, no top offensive lineman in Wisconsin, leaves our state. Get the big uglies back, then find a top-tier quarterback either in the portal or a top recruit. That's been last 25 years, it feels like, trying to find a quarterback and keeping a top-rated quarterback.
It's supposed to be good this year.
Well, then it kind of boils down to, I mean, do you want to get back to Wisconsin where it's all about the running game and the big uglies, or do you, I mean, if you're a quarterback and it's all about the draft, you probably want to go to an offense that's just going to throw the ball all over the place.
Yep.
But, all right, we got to take our final break, and then it's going to be halftime here, so we'll be right back after these really quick words. Just a couple minutes left to the top of the hour. Don't forget it is a Takeover Thursday, so if you have any topics that you would like to throw out for us to discuss and for us to throw out to the rest of the listeners to discuss, please hit us up with a quick text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, or you can join in on the Section 105 chat room. We're going to, speaking of texting, please get your questions in for Mr. Jake Bolks, Wisconsin Conservation Warden, who'll be joining us at 8:30 this morning. So get those questions on in right now so I can forward those on to Jake. Hey, I want to pass this along. Coming up on April 25th, that's next Saturday, a benefit event will be held at the Elbow Room to help raise funds for a local couple that lost their home in a fire days before their wedding. So they're working to rebuild and secure some housing, temporary housing. So if you are able to stop by to donate, help spread the word for this couple, for this family, please, it's coming up on April 25th at the Elbow Room for Chad and Laura. So again, that's coming up next Saturday at the Elbow Room. This couple tragically lost their home just days before their wedding and such. So they're trying to raise some money. Their friends are trying to help them out and raise some money so that they can pay for some temporary housing and such. And get their lives and new marriage back on track. So, again, put it on your calendars if you have some time. Next Saturday, April 25th at the Elbow Room. All right, shot clock is going to cut me off in less than a minute. So, again, we are approaching halftime. Get your enoughs in, your Takeover Thursdays. We're going to get back to some more baseball talk coming up here in a little bit. We'll throw a little hockey, little hoops chat into our fun time, too. And then we'll probably play a little game time coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. So, I got a few of your messages to get to. I'll wait and get to those coming up just past 8 o'clock because I won't have enough time to do so. But Brew Crew back at it. We are just a few hours away from first pitch, 12:40. Again, you can listen to that game on the radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Coverage will begin at about 12:05. Brandon Sproat is going to be on the mound for the Crew. So we'll see if he can maybe kind of have his best starts as a Brewer for today's game. All right, quick break. We got news updates, and we'll be right back after these quick words.